friends. I'm your host, Dr. Dave Layton, and thank you for joining me in our journey to hope. It is my desire through this podcast to bring you information about how to discover, sustain, or perhaps regain hope. Well, in this episode, I'm joined by William Hill. Now, most of us know him as Dub, so that's what we're going to call him. Now, we're going to discuss with him a program that he is very, very much involved with called the Social Assistance Homes. And Dub is a part of this and has been for a number of years. Hello, Dub.
Hello, Dave. Thank you for having me.
Oh, I'm honored, my brother. I'm deeply honored. Well, first of all, where did you get that nickname from? I've been meaning to ask you that.
That started with my mother. I was known in my early years all the way through high school as WC. And she picked up on the W, which I guess you'd call that the first syllable in W. So that's where it came from. It was an assigned name.
Okay, so it's not double as in there's two of you.
No, it's just Dub.
Okay. Well, I've had the honor of knowing you for so many years now through our ministry here at the Prattville Church of Christ, and you've honored us by letting us be a part of that ministry. We help support it, and we're very honored. I was very honored to do so. And you've been a missionary also with my brother and sister-in-law, Larry and Kay Little.
Yes.
And well, we're going to get to talking about the social assistance homes and why I brought you on this podcast. But I'd like you to tell the audience a little bit about yourself.
My wife, Shirly, and I were married in 1961 here in Tupelo. She was born and raised here. I was born in Memphis and moved to North Mississippi when I was in the first grade, and then finally to Tupelo, and we both graduated from Tupelo High School, and were married in 61. And from that point on, we kind of moved around every 3 to 5 years with national company that I was with. Wound up in Nashville and Mobile, and then spent 5 years in New Orleans, and decided that we didn't want to do that anymore. We were going to come home. So we came home to Tupelo, and within the next year or so, we opened up a Christian bookstore, and we operated that here in Tupelo for about 22 years. And during that last 10 or 12 years of that work is how I got involved in originally Russia, the work in Russia, primarily the preacher training school there. And that's how I met Larry and Kay. I would go to Syktyvkar on the business side of the school, and a couple of times stayed with them. And finally in December of 1999, Shirley and I went in December and stayed with them in their apartment. And that's when we found the basis for starting the social assistance homes. So we've been involved for a long time now, and you and Prattville have been part of the work since, I believe it's just 2009. And so it's been a while, and it's been a good association as far as I'm concerned, and I pray that it is with you as well.
Well, it has been, and we're going to certainly look forward to continuing that support. And we've been able to not only support it financially, but just to be a part of the effort.
Yes.
We've enjoyed that. And it was personal to me when I first heard about the social assistance homes, what you were doing, taking care of I'll let you explain what that does, but I was raised, excuse me, I was raised in an orphanage. And back then it was in the late 50s. It was the old traditional orphanage with the big open room, type thing. And we didn't have the homes, children's homes as they have now.
Right.
And so whenever I see ministries and works that are pointed in that direction of taking care of and providing for children, that gets my attention real quick. That
Sure.
becomes
I'm sure.
personal.
Yes.
So
And
when I
you
saw
know,
we had a chance to be a part of that, it was like, well, yeah, this,
great.
this is
And
what
I'm
we're going to
thankful
do.
for that.
Yeah.
Yes.
All right. Well, let's talk about the social assistance homes that you're
Mhm.
so much involved with. You and Shirley both.
Yes. It was originally named the Russian Homes for Widows and Orphans. And as we went in those early days, it became obvious that the government was not going to let us have an orphanage. It was they didn't even let the Russian Orthodox have one.
Oh, okay.
So it was all state run, and so I was just kind of between under a rock. I couldn't go anywhere. And I talked to a lady in Memphis who was involved in international adoptions, and she said, "Go back and talk to them about foster care." And Dave, when I did and sat down with the couple of ladies that oversee that work, and I said, "Would you let us participate in foster care?" She said, "How many do you want?"
Oh,
so,
okay.
so, so we were ready to go almost from the get go. We had bought a couple of apartments because the exchange rate for the dollar was just so advantageous, and we had expected this work to grow as far as housing widows and destitute women and their children. And then when we had this opportunity to just kind of blossom with the foster homes, it went very well. And so we over the years we wound up buying about 13 apartments. And how we work that is these 2 and 3 room apartments. We can put a lady in each one of those rooms. They share a bathroom and a kitchen. Sometimes they have a child or two, and it gets crowded, so we have to move them around, to best suit or accommodate them. And but that just kind of exploded as far as children. I think when the first time I came to talk to the elders at Prattville, we had like 49 children at that time,
Okay.
and some of those have grown through the process. At 18, they can leave. They leave even the orphanages at 16 to 18. Mm-hmm. And we committed to them for the long haul. We told them, if you will stay here, we will support you even through your higher education.
Okay. So you provide shelter for,
yes.
Who is your target client? I'm not sure how to say that.
Obviously, the widows were first in line. As that grew, we realized that there were several younger women who were destitute on the street, abused by husbands, men, and that became I'll say a desire to help, but I didn't know how.
Okay.
That was during that 10 years I was working with the school. I saw them, but I didn't know what to do about it. And I got to tell you this short story about the young lady at the airport in Moscow. I was returning home from a trip to Syktyvkar, and I was waiting on my flight. I was standing out of the way against the wall. It was just wall-to-wall people, my gigantic airport. They all of a sudden, she just appeared in front of me. I would guess maybe 20, 22 years old, had a baby sitting on her hip. And she was talking Russian, and I picked up the word ruble, 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 and I realized she was asking for help. And I had been told not to do that because that encouraged them to do what they did. But so I told her, I kept telling her no. And finally she left, and I got to thinking, I've got $9 worth of rubles in my pocket. When I get on that airplane, they won't be worth a thin dime. So I gathered my stuff and I started looking for her. And I couldn't find her anywhere. Made 2 trips through the airport. And to this day, I'm sorry.
Oh,
never found her, but I promised that I would try to do something for somebody else.
yeah.
And that's actually how this got started. And I coupled that with the fact that there's so many of those elderly ladies on the streets in Moscow and anywhere. It's just they're there. They need help. And,
yeah. And I know it hurts that you can't help every one of them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I know that.
Yeah. We're James 1:27
Yes.
talks about helping the fatherless and the widows in their affliction, and that's what we try to do. That's the vehicle we ride to get to Matthew 28:19 and 20. Go teach, baptize, and
Yeah.
teach. So
Yeah. And sometimes before we can teach somebody the gospel and help them in that regard, of course we want to, but
yes,
sometimes you got to take care of some very basic, serious human needs.
yes.
I understand that.
Well, Dave, when every time that we have made it a point to concentrate on a person's physical need, if they're in need, if you'll concentrate on that, they will eventually ask you, why are you doing this?
Yeah.
There's your door. And it happens time and time and time again. So when I think of what we're talking about hope, we're talking about women and children who absolutely have none. I mean, they're at the bottom of your diagram in your book, and I got a lot from that. That whole diagram sits on hopeless, and as you begin to climb that diagram, then things begin to develop. And if you can contribute to that, then you are making a contribution to their well-being, and it gives them additional hope as they grow into what they're trying to do and what you're wanting them to do and leading them to do.
And I suspect at times what you offer them for some folks is the first time perhaps somebody has shown them some kindness
Yes.
and showed them there is a pathway that you can go on, and we're here to help you on that.
There's some stories, and I know you've heard them as well, that just break your heart just to hear them told, not to experience them. And I've been there, and I know what it is and what it does to them, and it breaks your heart.
It does.
These young girls have been abused and used, and by used I mean any possible way that they can be used, they are, and in many cases they become pregnant, they don't know what to do, where to go, they're on the street, and all of a sudden somebody shows up and says, "Let me help you. I know a place where you can go."
Yeah, and as I understood in conversations with you in the past, the social structure within Russia did not have a wide of services like this.
No, they pretty much everybody was on their own. If you go back to the time that the communists were in charge, the men in the society were told where to go, what to do, how to work, where to live, what to wear. And then when that fell, they didn't have anything. They didn't know what to do. So they turned to drink. And at that time, and when Larry and Kay were there in the early 90s, you could buy a bottle of vodka cheaper than you could buy a bottle of water. So that just made it readily available to them, and they drank themselves into trouble.
Yeah.
If it hadn't been for the women there, they would be in far greater trouble than they are today.
Yeah.
But the women will look out for their family if they're given the opportunity.
Okay. So social assistance homes is what it is now, and you focus on providing physical care, educational services, and other services for widows and women who are in a distressed situation with children.
Yes.
Okay, so I understood that.
Yes. And then you add the second part of that is, I call that the foster homes. You have our terminology within our sphere of communication is the social assistance homes are the ones that you just named. The part two to that is foster homes.
Okay.
And that is structured that way because there's a tax advantage for the foster homes because there are children involved. If there was all one thing, then there would be a lot more taxes paid.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
So we separated that, but they all live in these apartments that we provide for them. This is, what we're doing is I call it a means to an end. The end being talking to them about the Bible and giving them an opportunity to learn what it takes to go to heaven. And that's my end objective.
Okay. Well, you obviously are providing hope. And
Yes.
So some of my listeners, they may be wondering, well, all right, that's wonderful. I mean, praise God for that. Thank you, Dub, for you and the so many people that help out. Oh, and by the way, before I get to that,
Yep.
Again, in some of our discussions that we've had, some of the residents in these homes turn around and help out.
Oh, yes.
And
yes. That's one of the blessings we had we started with the widows, older women. And as the further we got into this, the more awareness we became of these women and their abilities to help these young women that don't know what's going on.
Yeah.
The Bible tells us, the young ladies listen to the older ones.
Yeah.
And it works. And so when we have these girls come in and literally, Dave, they just don't know what's going on. They're pregnant. They've got a child growing, but they don't know what to do. And the child is born. And now what do I do? It's just a day after day process of, I don't know. Can you help me? So we'll put them in an apartment with one of these older ladies, and they're just delighted. They love it.
I'm sure they do. And all of a sudden they become kind of a foster child with that older woman.
And they have this sense of hope. They've got it themselves, and they're offering it and giving it to these younger girls.
And okay. And that's kind of where I wanted to go. Part of the way is somebody might say, well, okay, that's wonderful. We love it. We see the benefit of it, but well, how do I help? What do I do? And it's not just a matter, okay, thank you for writing a check, making a contribution to this work, which is great. That's always a good part of it. But there's a relationship here to where I wanted to go with this podcast. My tagline in the podcast is my desire to help people discover, sustain, regain, and sustain hope. And over my research for when I was writing the book about hope and having discussions with people online, just time and time again, I hear somebody say, what you need to do if your hope is challenged is to look outside of yourself. And so work such as this social assistance homes is just an example of the kinds of things that we can do. Now, they may not be able to be directly involved with the Russian social assistance homes, but they can find things. And in doing so, they'll find hope for themselves.
Yes. We had one trip. I was there for 3 weeks, and we always have a Bible study every Monday night, and sometimes more often than that. And early on in the trip, I challenged them. I said, this is what we're trying to do is help people. You in particular, you being the residents that we had there. And I said, if you want to reach out, or if you've got somebody that you think could be benefited by some of the things that we do, take them a loaf of bread. And, if you don't have the money for it, ask TK, our director. She'll buy a loaf of bread for you. You take it and give it to them. And if you keep doing that, then you will find a place in their positive attitude. They won't be negative towards you. And because they think you're taking care of them, and you really are. And then again, I keep referring to your diagram in your book. Once they see that there's a possibility for something else, that's the motivation to keep trying. And as you get into that second phase and you're climbing that ladder, so to speak, you want to keep going because you're accomplishing things. And then in the final stage, it's the confidence that you have. And our ladies and some of them that leave there have that confidence. They've been there. They've learned how to do things outside in the job world. They have jobs to do, and so they're confidence. And I look at Paul, in 2 Timothy chapter 1, he said, "I know," and he was very confident. His hope was assured.
Well, that's what First John, John told us. I'm writing these things so you will know.
Yes.
No doubt about it. Hey, you've mentioned it twice, and thank you for a shout out about the book, Journey to Hope.
Well, it helps.
The diagram you're talking about, as I studied and thought about it, and I developed this idea that you go from hope sparked to hope sensed, and then to hope seen. So these ladies and the children will come to you, and sometimes there's not a spark of hope there. There's just nothing there. And yet you take them in and you begin to nourish them and nurture them. And that spark of hope is there. And we're just drawn to a spark in a deep, dark room. And I use the illustration of the deepest and darkest of night, because that's how you feel. Darkness is all around you, but off in the horizon, you see that little spark of the sun coming up.
That's right.
And then I talk about, as the sun continues to come up, hope sensed. Now, some of the darkness begins to fade away, and you see around you a little bit, hey, this is working. I'm moving in the direction I need to go, and you begin to grow, and awareness and confidence begins to grow until eventually you see that you're on the right track. You see the resolution of the situation, and that's hope seen. And that's like being in the full light of day. All the shadows are dispelled. Confidence has grown. You went from no confidence to some confidence to full confidence. So that's the illustration you're talking about, and it applies to us in so many levels.
I look at that same illustration, and when God looked down on the earth and it was just black with sin, and all the way over in the back, way back there was Noah, a little bitty light.
That one spark,
that one little light.
Yeah,
but I think of that quite often. I haven't mentioned the fact that several years ago we developed there was a need or a drive started by their president, Putin. He wanted to cut back and stop as many abortions as they could. And we developed a plan in Syktyvkar, and they took some posters and some brochures to the hospital. There's 3 of them there, plus a clinic. And one of our members on our staff, shall I say, is a doctor in one of the hospitals. And she was very instrumental in getting a positive result in all of those places. And they put up posters, and one of the doctors told her, said, "You won't get them all, but you'll get some." Yeah. And we have managed to help 5 young ladies with their to avoid the abortion idea.
Oh, I love it, because that's what you're doing. You're providing an alternative to that hopeless situation.
Right. Yes.
Okay.
And hopeless, and not only from them, but for that precious baby.
Yeah, exactly. You're enabling life.
Yes, exactly.
Okay.
And then, let's see, there was a time, I think when I came to that first report, we had about 149 women and children that had passed through the homes. And today, when I come back to the report next time, the number's up to 674. So
oh, wow.
We've helped them all, and all of them have at least studied the Bible once. So that's one of our goals, was to teach them as best we could.
Well, and that's so critically important. We discuss hope as being confident assurance, and true and lasting hope is found in our Lord Jesus Christ. He
Absolutely.
said, I'm the way, the truth, and the life. No one comes to the Father except by me. And so that's what you're able to do. You're able to provide them hope in a secular way of, okay,
Mm-hmm.
life is there for me. But then you begin to teach them as you can about our Savior, and now they have eternal hope.
It's that spark you mentioned. I've seen it several times. Especially when we were studying the Gospels with them and the Gospel account, and we went through Matthew, and the next time I was there, we started Luke and got to chapter 3, and somebody said, well, we've already studied this. That's when they listed all the names. And so I thought then, I said, well, maybe they know enough about Jesus to move into the book of Acts.
Okay.
And Dave, you could see the light when it came on.
Yeah.
That we'd talk to them about Jesus, and then the book of Acts moves us to a different phase. And then once you get through your Romans, then that's how you live a Christian life, and you studied that the rest of your life.
Oh, yeah. And that's what I tell people. We study the Gospels to learn who Jesus is and what his teachings are. And then Acts teaches us how to become citizens of God's kingdom.
Exactly.
And then the rest of it, here's how you're going to live.
That's right. You never learn it all. Every time you look at something, it could be a little bit different, a little bit more effective. But
brother, I live every day praising God for 1 John chapter 1.
Yes.
If we're walking in the light, he forgives us. I love that. Right. I recently did with Brent Missildine an episode here on the podcast about 1 Peter chapter 3. I'm sorry, 1 Peter 1, 3 through 5, where he talks about an unfading hope that cannot be defiled. And there's a phrase in there that said that God guards for us in heaven. God is caring for that. And we made the point that God's serving us. And well, we're off the subject.
Well, I agree that what we're offering is hope, and a couple of ways. Hope that I can survive this physically because of the help that I'm getting, and then all of a sudden they're introduced to a spiritual hope.
Yeah.
And then those two just kind of lead them up that diagram. I'm use it again. It just kind of leads up that little hillside till you get there.
You're probably selling a couple of books for me there, brother. Thank you.
All right. Well, the diagram is worth a book.
Thank you.
Yeah, because we all need to start it down there with someone who is hopeless and take them as far as we can go with them.
Yeah. And it helps us see something visually that it helps ourselves.
Yes.
We can analyze where we are, where we need to be, and ask ourselves, are we growing? Okay.
Yes.
Well, that's fine. And thank you for that.
Yes.
I said to somebody today, I believe, that I've probably given away more copies of the book than it's sold. But
so you're not going to get wealthy.
Oh, no, I'm not after getting wealthy with it. Hey, I got to share with you, though. I mentioned it to Brent the other day. I had one of our ladies at church call me up last week and said, hey, there's a deputy sheriff here in the county next to ours who has just been diagnosed with leukemia, and I want to get him a copy of your book. Where can I buy one? And I said, well, you can buy it on Amazon, but don't you dare. I will get you a copy of that for that deputy sheriff. And I said, I really want to do that. So, okay, enough about the book. I'm sorry.
All right. Okay. I enjoyed it.
Well,
you mentioned, I don't know where you're going next, but I remember a comment you made earlier about all of us know someone in need.
Yeah.
And that's where we can begin there. And when I read that, I think, just put you a map on the wall and throw a dart at it. If it lands on some kind of land or continent, then there's somebody there that needs your help. It doesn't matter where it is. It could be next door, or it could be in Timbuktu. Just go to work. And hopefully it's something that you want to do, love to do, and that makes it fun, not labor.
Yeah, and there, God has given all of us some kind of
Hmm.
skill, a talent,
Yes.
whatever you want to call it,
Yep.
and so that's what I say. What can we do? I love the story. Well, the event. It wasn't a
Hmm.
story; it was an event when God commissioned Moses.
Yes.
And, Moses offered excuses. No, I don't want to go
Oh
back
yeah.
to Egypt. I don't want to do that.
Yeah.
I can't,
Four of them.
can't do
Yeah.
this or that. And then finally God said, what's in your hand?
Yeah.
Moses looks down at that stick, that
Yeah.
staff,
Yeah.
and God said, you're going to be using that. And he showed him
Yeah.
how. And
That's right.
that's what I
And then
like to ask people, what's in your hand?
yeah.
And when we do that, again, back to my point, when we
Mhm.
do that, uh, the depression, the desperation, the lack of hope that we
Mhm.
might be feeling begins to
Mhm.
go away.
Yes. And it's not a one day you don't have it and the next day you have it. It's a gradual process.
I describe it as a journey. Yes, sir.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah. You're
Journey
going
to
to
hope.
grow and it's going to have ups and downs but you keep moving, keep going.
Yes.
Yeah.
And the more you try, the better it gets.
Um,
And that, it doesn't take much to find somebody to help.
that's right.
Uh, just reach out. And
Just be there for them.
yes. Yeah.
Sometimes that's all we need. I love volunteering at our local cancer center
Hmm.
because it gives me a chance to help
Yeah.
people. Yes, I've been through it. I know what you're feeling, and
Hmm.
here's what's going to happen. Here's you're going to feel, that sort of thing. But sometimes I walk away from the cancer center and I am emotionally spent.
Yes.
Uh, but more times than not, my life has been enriched uh, by helping out folks and watching them smile, uh,
Hmm.
watching their hope grow. When we have a new patient, part of what I do as a volunteer is to help kind of get them settled in as they begin their treatment. And excuse me, I introduce myself to them, and if the nurse has not already told them I'm a former cancer survivor or a
Hmm.
former cancer patient, a cancer survivor, I'll tell them, who I am, but I always tell them my job is to make this the best day you've had. Uh,
Yeah.
and so I check on them, I take care of them, I advocate for them. And so
Hmm.
again, it's it's about getting out of yourself and
Yeah.
how can I turn this to help others?
Mhm. And I've heard you say before the power of prayer, and whatever the situation you find yourself, God will use you, and you tell Him what's on your mind and your heart, and He'll take that and develop it with you. That
Yeah.
think of when we're located in 5 cities in Western Russia now, and the last one was Moscow, and that one was really hard to get set up. I may be going too long.
No, you're
Um,
fine. The one
Let
in
me,
the one in Moscow was
yes,
difficult.
that was difficult. Yes, and I had been there and on one trip to talk to the men in the church there, and there was about 12 of them, and they, I could tell they were just kind of flippant about it. They didn't understand how it was going to do. Didn't understand. So that's what I was there for, to explain it to them. And as it turned out, the guys that were with me when we left, I said, I don't think that's going to work. But I kept praying, and as usually we do, the longer we go from that thing, the less effective your prayers are. And so one night, just before I was about to go back over there, I got a text or an email from one of the men there in the church, and he said, "Would you come back and talk to us one more time?" So I said, "Sure." So I made arrangements to stay over in Moscow, and I was at the hotel. I said, "Can you come to the hotel? That would be the easiest thing. I'll get us a place that we can meet." And he brought 6 people, and they said, "We're ready to go." And I thought, I'd been praying all this time, didn't know why, didn't know how, didn't know what. And I walk in the room, and there they are. They're ready.
Yeah.
So he answers prayer. And So that was a good thing that we had, and we worked there now for about 5 years, and you wouldn't believe the different people we've met, the cultures that come our way, and conflicting cultures, I will add. There's definitely a hodgepodge of cultures and people in that big city, and they're some of them are very, very hard to deal with, and so you just try and you learn and you move on.
Okay.
But there's been some Christians that have come out of that work. We're thankful.
Well, and that's ultimately what we want to do. We want to steer people
Yes.
toward our Lord. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And we make no
That-
apologies for that. That's who we are.
Right.
That's what
But
we
that
do.
was a way to open up hope to a city that's got about 15 million people. So
Yeah.
we can't get them all, but the last one was tickled.
Okay. Well, let's just make the assumption
Okay.
that somebody that's out there listening to this podcast wants to be a direct part of the social assistance homes.
Yes.
So they can get a hold of you and
Yes.
find out more detail about how to do it. So
Right.
tell how somebody can get with you
Mhm.
to talk about this.
Let me give you my email address. That would
Well,
be the easiest thing. No?
okay.
Lowercase WMCHILL, the number 3 at yahoo.com.
Okay.
What did you have in mind for the?
Well, I was wondering about through the congregation there in
church?
Tupelo.
Yes. West Main Church of Christ.
West Main.
Church of Christ. 2460 West Main Street. Tupelo, Miss. 38801.
Okay, and I like to do that, and I'll put that address in the introduction to it, so folks, because certainly if folks want to be a direct part individually or as a congregation or whatever, they certainly would do well to do that. It is a direct opportunity to help somebody. But again, I want to go back. Even if you're not able to be a direct part of this ministry, there are so many opportunities for you. Look around, find somebody, find some work, opportunity to help someone out. And when you help others grow in their hope, your hope grows too. It's just a wonderful thing, getting outside of ourselves.
Exactly
All
right. Very good.
Well, Dub, I always enjoy visiting with you, my friend.
Well, I feel likewise. It's always a pleasure, and I look forward to seeing you soon. Usually it's February, March when I make my report in Prattville.
Yeah,
Larry and I'll come together usually. So
we will be traveling the last part of February, but I'll get with our guy and find out.
Yeah. When?
Make sure he knows to send you an invite.
Well, this would be a good time because I'm wide open right now. So.
All right. Well, let me tell you something. If you'll get here kind of early in the day or earlier in the week, I should say, I happen to know a barbecue place here in Prattville that you will almost have a religious experience when you eat there.
Listen to you. How can I turn that down?
The name of it is Fat Boys. Now, how can you go wrong with a restaurant called Fat Boys?
Well, as long as you got French fries, you'll make it.
Well, Dub, thank you, my friend.
Thank you, Dave.
Appreciate it. And I continue to pray that God will continue to bless the work and souls will be touched.
Thank you very much. I appreciate you and your program and all the people that have been listening. I pray that they'll have hope and exercise it and give it to somebody else.
Yes. All right.
Take care, brother.
All right. Well, friends, thank you for joining me together as we journey to hope. I truly hope that we have encouraged you to discover, sustain, or regain hope through this effort. I invite you to contact me if you have any questions or comments, or you wish to share with me something you've experienced in your journey to hope. My email is ourjourneytohope@gmail.com. That's our journey and the number 2 hope@gmail.com. And please share this podcast with someone whose hope is being challenged. I look forward to sharing more with you soon. Again, I'm Dr. Dave Layton, and thank you for listening. And until our next episode, remember, we give all glory to God our Father.